Hello, I'm Fraser Rudman and welcome back to The Creative Diary. This is a vlog documenting my creative journey as an artist, and this is part two of what I'm calling the prologue, where you, the viewer, get to know me a little bit better before we really dive into the thick of things. Before we begin, I just need to clarify that I forgot to mention in the last video that I can't guarantee how often I'll be uploading new episodes of this vlog. I'll only be filming and editing and uploading these episodes as I feel are necessary or as I grow creatively. So just so you know, this is actually my second attempt at filming this episode. I tried filming this a few days ago with a good friend of mine, Billy, and it didn't go as I was hoping it would go. I went in unscripted with the intention of just winging what I was wanting to say, but yeah, it just did not go well at all. So this is attempt two. Hopefully it goes a bit better, and we'll find out in the edit, I guess. Originally in this episode I was going to wank on about my favourite films and directors and musicians, albums and so on, but when we actually went to film the episode, like I just said, it was just sound like I was just wanking on about these things without firm context as to why I was talking about them. Billy brought up a good idea. He actually suggested talking about these things, but in the context of what I'm wanting to pursue, short-term, artistically and creatively. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about some of my favourite things, artistically, creatively, and without wanking on a bit too much. So 3 of my favourite films as of 2:50 PM on the 23rd of October 2016. The Grand Budapest Hotel, Hot Fuzz, and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Wes Anderson and Edgar Wright are my favourite directors. Admittedly, regarding Wes Anderson, I've only seen from Fantastic Mr. Fox onwards. I haven't seen his earlier stuff, but I've seen all of Edgar Wright's work, directing-wise at least. Grand Budapest and Hot Fuzz, for me, I would call, for lack of a better word, their masterpieces. And what I mean by that is these are the films that, in my opinion, speak the highest volumes in terms of their styles of filmmaking. Grand Budapest, with its use of wide-angle lenses, the wide-angle shots, the flat spaces, the symmetrical compositions of most of the shots in the whole film, actually, come to think about it. Even the blocking and the cues for the actors, it gives the film a real feel of stage or traditional theatre, which I absolutely adore. But all these small elements aside, the film just makes me smile every time I watch it. It's a blast to watch. Hot Fuzz at its core is an action comedy, but I would argue that the film is genre-defying, for lack of a better way of saying it. You can tell the way that Wright has put the film together. There's so many sort of sub-genre elements within the film, and they each complement each other in a way that there's never a schizophrenic moment, because each of the sub-genres are carried by its core. Even the more dramatic scenes have that much more impact because of the perfect balance that there is between the drama and the comedy, as well as Wright's other uses of genre. That and all the small details, from the perfectly timed sound effects through to the really dramatic scene transitions, everything is timed and tuned so beautifully with the action that's happening on screen. Lastly, Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of my favourite films, and it has been ever since I first watched it when I was 5, I believe. And it remains one of my favourite films today, mainly because it encapsulates everything that I love about film, what I love about movies. And director Steven Spielberg, he is a master of capturing movie magic. And Raiders, from start to finish, is just littered with movie magic. And it's Indiana Jones. What's not to like? My 3 favourite albums right now, which I think are a major influence on what I'm trying to achieve musically, are Era Vulgaris by Queens of the Stone Age, El Pintor by Interpol, and Francis the Mute by the Mars Volta. Queens of the Stone Age is one of my favourite bands, and they are in my super ultimate tag team trio of musicians, alongside REM and Lana Del Rey. Strangely, Queen's albums kind of rotate in terms of which one's my favourite on an almost bi-monthly basis. So Era Vulgaris at the moment is my favourite, just as well too because I've been getting a lot of inspiration and motivation from the album as of late, particularly with its sound. Era Vulgaris has, and I say this in a good way, a more unpolished and dirty sound to it, and I say that's a good thing because it gives this album and the follow-up, like clockwork, a more raw and a more human sound to it. It just sounds more real. El Pintor by Interpol. You could argue that Interpol have made better albums thematically than El Pintor, and you'd probably be right, but El Pintor, how do I say it? Perfects minimalism? Yeah, let's go with that. Perfects minimalism. What I mean by that is each instrument on the album does what it needs to do and nothing more. And the way each track is recorded and mixed, every void sonically is filled without becoming noisy. It doesn't descend into noise or become irritating. It's a hard thing to balance, but El Pintor pulls it off, at least for the first half of the album. My favourite off this one is Same Town New Story. My favourite off this one is Same Town New Story. And finally, I want to talk briefly about Francis the Mute by the Mars Volta. I only got around to listening to this recently, and I sat down and I properly listened to it, and it blew my mind. There's only 5 tracks on the album, each averaging around 15 minutes a piece. The compositions of each instrument, as well as the use of abstract sound effects, is so solid and so tightly woven together within each other that if you manage to look past the pretension, it will blow your mind, as it did mine. If you've got a spare 35 minutes up your sleeve, check out Cassandra Gemini. And if you've got a few brain cells that you're willing to squander, because it will kill them. So there we have it, 3 of my favourite films and 3 of my favourite albums as of recording this video. That's the end of the prologue. I swear that the next video that you see will actually be contributing productively toward my end goal. Also, I'll be clean shaven, so that's another thing as well. And I'll probably have less hair. I'll get a haircut in the next week or so. Till next time.